in the aftermath of the House versus NCAA settlement being ratified in the last couple of weeks, an FBS Oversight Committee is considering major changes to the transfer portal window, namely going back to one window and reducing the days down from 30 to 10, starting as early as 2026. We got to talk about this. Good morning, and welcome back to Rise and Shine's Big Monday. I'm your host, Jason Watkins, and if you love college football, you know you're in the right place. So before you forget, smash that red subscriber button, like our videos, and don't forget to ring the bell so you don't miss one moment of Hall of Fame college football. Welcome to the show, everybody. Bishop Frank, Logan Litkey, Ryman Lemon. Good to see you, man. True Okie, Rob 077, Greg Gray. Good morning, Boomer Sooner. Got a little bit we got to talk about this morning, and actually a lot of this is going to be about some of the rules that are going to shape the future of college football. And I got to tell you, it's starting to look, well, it's looking like exactly what they said it was going to look like as far as trying to kind of preempt any kind of lawsuits or anything like that by instituting a bunch of rules that really doesn't seem like they could even be enforced, but I digress. Right now on the table is basically the NCAA and what basically is a committee for the FBS is actually deciding on and trying to work out how they're going to explore a single transfer portal window that would go from 30 days down to 10 days, like the original portal window that you have in December. It would be either in December or April or no. The current status is December and April, but a lot of coaches are actually pushing for a window opening of January 2nd through the 12th, which is just a 10-day window. And it would preferably to try to reduce bowl game opt-outs, stabilizing rosters heading into spring practice. And then, of course, it would kind of help with the impact of the roster limits that you have that came from the House settlement. Now, I'll just kind of read through some of this stuff because it is kind of, there's a lot to it. But in The Athletic, they're talking about with the House versus NCAA settlement finally approved, the people in charge are turning quickly to the sport's next potential rules changes. At the top of the list, moving to a single transfer portal window instead of the current two in December and April. At the SEC meetings last month, Coach Kirby Smart said it was the biggest decision that has to be made in college football as far as he was concerned. During a call coming up today, the first meeting since the House settlement's approval, the FBS Oversight Committee is expected to have a discussion on a single window. The hope is to come back with a recommendation to the NCAA and begin a path to solidify a change before the upcoming season, which we're talking right now. The committee chair, which is Buffalo Athletic Director Mark Allnut, said that he's confident they're going to get there. When would that single portal window be? As I said, January 2nd through the 12th, beginning in 2026, is actually what was voted on by the American Football Coaches Association in a annual convention in January in Charlotte. Now that goes back, a little ways, but as we know, that was something that they were talking about before, and it kind of got shot down at that point, right? Um, so the thing you have to remember. Whoops, let me do something real quick. Let's see about getting Cody in here. Oh, Stovall. Um, Dang it, real quick. Oops. I sent that to the wrong place. All right. Okay. Now, according to several people that are involved in the process, um, in order to describe the state of discussions, early January is an option, but it's about an 80-20 split, according to what the committee of this person that was talking about it said. Now, that date would allow most schools to finish the season with their full teams. You're not going to have kids jumping into the portal in December if you're in a playoff run, which I think a lot of people prefer at least that part of it. But the thing about it is what I'm seeing here is if you're going to the 12th, the college football playoff is going to, and after this year especially, it won't get over probably until at the very latest, at the very earliest, probably the last week of January, and may go into February, kind of like what the NFL has done. Now, a lot of their what they're talking about is the reason that it would have to be from the 2nd through the 12th, though, would be due to the fact that you have uh essentially it's just enrollment time, right? But what are we talking about here? It's time for the gloves to come off. Too much nonsense, too much uncertainty. How did football become so political to satisfy legal and insurance purposes? Oh yeah, dude. It's definitely politics, and they're playing politics in the NCAA, which they've done forever. And listen, guys, I'm just going to be honest with you here. My opinion on this, and I would tell you, Boganowski should be in here anytime. And then Cody said he was headed to the house. I think he's got to set up his deal because he's been gone for a week or so. But we're going to have him jump in here and talk about it a little bit as well. Look, I agree that there's a lot of nonsense going on in college football. There's a lot of craziness and there's not a ton of parameters on how you do things. What I will continue to say, and I've told you guys this before, is that a lot of this stuff is the reason that you have things the way that they are is not because of the athletes themselves. It has everything to do with the way that the coaches, the schools, the universities themselves, the athletic directors, and everybody else wants it, right? We talk about the portal and all that other stuff, and we worry about the fact that you give these kids and bring them into your program, and then you lose them to the portal. Well, a lot of times though, it's the coaches that are kicking them that way. Now, one of the things I'm seeing, because there's some other things. There's a couple of bills that are in the House right now that are actually working towards kind of ratifying what they were talking about. In the whole settlement itself, where you've got that, the Deloitte clearinghouse that's going to decide on NIL money that they think is not of quote fair market value, which I have a hard time believing anybody like that. Anybody is it's going to be fair for anybody but the universities who want all the money. Now, I understand that you have to have some sort of form of parameters, but I feel like that they've been signing 1-year contracts for their own. I mean, they do it for their own good so that they have that flexibility to be able to say, hey, we're not going to keep you around. We're going after somebody else. They're using the transfer portal the same way that, the players are. In fact, they use it even more, right? It would kind of be, um, it would kind of be I think it's completely disingenuous when they start talking about the portal, to be honest with you, because I think it's more the schools themselves sending players into the portal than it is players jumping because they're being greedy, right? I've told you before that you're not ever going to hear it in that put out that way from the school. The coach isn't going to tell you that they told you to go they told a player to go get in the portal. I mean, 25 out of the 30 guys that went into the portal from Oklahoma, we're told to go get into it. There was about 5 of them that they lost that they weren't expecting to lose per se, I would say. That being said, why is it that the players just say that I'm entering the portal? Well, because to them, it's better to look like you're being greedy than it is to look like you're not very good, and that it messes with your ability to find another place to play. I think that has as much to do with it as anything. What's up, everybody? Brandon Snake, Boomer Halen, Greg Ray, Sooner in Texas, Robert, Scott Walker, True Roki, Ryan C. TP Gurr, what's up, guys? What's up? Listen, and again, I'll get into some of this. Yeah, hey, what's up, Coach Top? And you know what? As a matter of fact, if you got time, I'll shoot a link to you and let's talk about this a little bit. I think that's the narrative that gets pushed out there, right? That's the narrative that gets pushed out there. Let me throw you a link. I'm gonna send it to your Twitter real quick. If you want to pop in, go ahead and do it. You don't have to stay very long. You can just do whatever. Okay. Let's see. Let me pop this over there to you, Coach Top. Coach Bug. Oops. All right, it's in there if you want to pop in. Anyway, morning, Nelio and Greg. Let's see. I'm not gonna lie. I think we can tell players to transfer. I like that we can tell them to transfer. Sometimes it does not work out, and that's fine. Okay, and I don't even necessarily have a problem with them being able to do that. What I don't like is that. Okay, I'm going to ask you a question now, Greg. That you say that you like it that they can tell a player to transfer. Do you like it if a player can decide to transfer on their own? Because that's where I got to say, if it's got to be fair for both sides. And here's the problem that you end up running into. Because and the other thing that they're talking about right now, which is something that concerns me, is that there's new bills in Congress right now that are basically would fully deputize that CSC, the College Sports Commission, to be able to enforce settlement rules such as requiring athletes to disclose third-party NIL deals worth more than $600 and allow the prohibition of compensation that is not considered fair market value. Again, I have a hard time understanding what they feel like they have any say over that, right? If these kids are out there able to get their own deals or whatever, and whether it's even if it, look, here's the reality of it is there's going to be people cheating anyway. There is going to be people cheating, but can anybody tell you that you can't go make extra money however you want? You know what I mean? And I look at the NFL, and this is basically a mini NFL at this point. And you're not able to go and tell Dak Prescott or Patrick Mahomes that he can't go make $1 billion doing something else as the owner of this or that, or working and having an endorsement deal with, say, State Farm or whatever, right? You're not able to do that. So, and don't believe for one second that the Cowboys or the Chiefs or whoever we're talking about don't work that into some of these guys, as they're working out their deals, that they don't try to work out situations like that with some of their corporate sponsors that they have through the team, which is exactly what like the NIL collective is. This shit goes on. It really does. Anyway, it would allow an entity to establish the revenue sharing cap. The one instituted by the settlement begins at around $20.5 million. And then it would also take away states' ability to preempt NIL laws with this national law that they're trying to pass. Now, it also would allow the NCAA conferences or any other entity to establish and enforce rules around transfers, eligibility length, and the paying of recruits. It would declare that college athletes are not employees, and it would require athletes, agents to register with an entity such as the CSC or the NCAA. Now, that I don't necessarily have a problem with, because I think some of these agents, first off, don't know what they're doing. And secondly, they're kind of trying to get over on these players. You want to be sure that that these folks are not just trying to line their own pockets and able to kind of screw these kids over. I think there's some other stuff that should go with that, though. Now, they're going to talk about this draft. They're calling it the score deal. To be honest with you, I'm not sure what I feel about this. They're saying that this, if it was passed, they're saying it would give athletes protections, requiring schools to provide injury care for at least 2 years after graduation, catastrophic injury insurance, and additional mental health services, and give autonomous authority to team physicians and trainers over player health and return to play decisions. That's already been done. That's already there. It would also make law that schools cannot pool scholarships or aid over performance or injury. Many of these benefits are already required by the NCAA. So far, any of these kind of attempts that Congress has kind of pushed out there haven't really gone very far. I would tell you that with Nick Saban jumping behind it and them, obviously the president kind of, talking about having a committee to do this and do that, I think that they could find a way to do it. I'm not sure how legal it is, though. And according to what we're seeing, it's not, you're hearing a lot of people that are saying that it isn't. Now, let's see. It could be an inflection point to get something done. Of course, Charlie Baker from the NCAA wants it done. I know that it almost feels like they're not going to be involved in much of college football for much longer. But this is something that Congress has asked the NCAA to jump in front of. They want them to get there and get that done first. So I'm not exactly sure how I feel about it, but let's see. That cap means no one could spend more than $20 million. Correct. Here's the problem with that. And it is a money-driven world. And listen, I'll just go back to what I've said in the past to you guys. If somebody comes and tells you and offers you, X amount, I mean, whatever it is, 25% more money than you're making in your current position at your current job, and you would take it. You would take that ability to do so. Also, if somebody told you, hey, if you could you make a video a week for me, or you do this or that, or we have you do a couple of commercials for us or whatever, and we're going to give you whatever the amount of money is, would you not take that? I think you would. And again, yes, Greg, what you just said, great coach, legend, biggest baby, crying all the time. Look, the thing is that let's not get it twisted. Let's not be crazy here and act like they haven't been paying players for a long damn time under the table. This is going to bring back the bag man is what it's going to do, right? It's going to end up, and that puts it back on the kids. So, because what happens with the bag man is that these kids end up being scapegoated for stuff that these schools are doing underhandedly. Because, look, you know as well as I do, being Oklahoma fans, that OU will go to pretty much any link to win. They always have. Texas will go to any much link to win. Alabama will go to every length. Look at what happened with, we know for sure that A&M bought that team that they had that was the greatest one of all time, the greatest recruiting class of all time, and it was $30 million that they paid for that. They just paid $30 million for the national championship at Ohio State this last year. And we're talking about, I mean, that was 4 years ago that all that other shit went down. Here's the thing. That's not necessarily correct either, Sugoi. Now, what I'm telling you, there can be, but it goes against your salary cap. Let's say you do what they tell you to do and you submit your paperwork that you have this new deal, right? And it goes into the collective, or not the collective, but the Deloitte deal, and they say it's okay. Now, whatever that number is, whatever that number may be, that goes against your salary cap that you have every year. Because even though it's an NIL deal, so they're trying to mix in NIL with rev share, which I think is, again, not good. Right? You have to play the game. You got to be in it to win. Of course you do. Yeah. Of course they can. But while, you're good. Here's the thing. If you think that it's going to stop, I mean, first off, number one, I would tell you that that's not correct what you just said. It would not change that. What's going to end up happening is just going to make it illegal again. They're going to be starting doing illegal things. Now, having the Deloitte people there, maybe you catch this, maybe you don't. I mean, they've been able to keep from getting these guys caught for a lot of years. Why was Nick Saban the best at what he did? Because he never got caught. He never got caught. He was able to bring these guys aboard, and just there it was. Yes, they can. Yeah, that's exactly, and that's what will happen. That's what will happen. So the idea that, and I hear people I've heard a lot of this from like the Wild Ute, who's on Big 12 Mafia with Bomber a lot, right? And he talks in that he is completely for this Deloitte, the Deloitte clearinghouse deal, because he believes that it's going to make it all fair. Now, where he's at now, where I would tell you that he's coming from this, and I like the Wild Ute, I like him, but Utah fans are a little weird in that it's as much about their rivalry with BYU, which they cannot afford to keep up with. They can't afford to pay the amount of money in NIL money that BYU is going to pay. And so they feel all of a sudden, and then now don't get me wrong, they've had the advantage when they were in the Pac-12, and the Pac-12 wouldn't have anything to do with BYU because of the Mormon thing. That was their, we've talked about how the Big Ten was with Catholics. That's exactly what's been going on all these years with the Pac-12, that they completely would shun BYU. Now, they would all play them, but they would never have them in the same conference, right? Whatever. And I would tell you that the reason why you heard all the truck stop conference crap and how that, that the cultures didn't match whenever we're talking about the Big 12 and the Pac-12, those schools that were saying the cultures didn't match, was because a lot of the schools in the Big 12 are religious schools, and not even just, mostly Christian schools, but they even had a stronger dislike for Mormons. For that church, right? The Latter-day Saint church. Now, yeah, here's the thing. Exactly. And this is the point that I have all the way around on it. They have to be separate because, right. Yeah. And how could you? That's the whole thing. It's, again, what they're talking about, the laws that nobody else in the country is subject to those kind of laws. I don't know exactly how it works, but it seems to me like the Supreme Court would absolutely step in on this and shut that down, because they were the ones that started all that went after the NCAA to begin with, and that's why NIL ended up getting kind of used in the wrong way. And again, I would tell you that this is a lot of stuff. This is a lot of this stuff has to do with the fact with the NCAA being crooked, and a lot of these universities, and including our own. Yeah, you can, Coach Ricks. Just let me know when you're ready. A lot of these schools, going along with it. One thing that I've never understood any of this since they started talking about it. Oh, let me go back to what I was saying about Wild Ute. Now, he's complaining about all this because they can't keep up with BYU, and they don't like that. They've been enjoying the fact that they've been kind of keeping BYU under their thumb because nobody would allow BYU into their conference, right? You weren't, as far as the power conferences were concerned. So they were able to out-recruit them, that kind of stuff. Now, what you end up looking at, though, is that he feels like that's going to, and he's made those comments of, that these are ridiculous NIL rules or ridiculous NIL sums that And I've heard a lot of people say you don't deserve X amount of money before you ever even take a snap in college. Well, you can say that, but you also have to say things like, well, do you deserve the kind of money that you get going into the NFL before you ever take a snap in that league? Because I think that you don't. Welcome into the show. Back to the show. It's been a while. Big Mike Boganowski. What's up, my guy? Oh, damn.
What's up? What's up?
What are you up to, my man? How's it going?
Shit, I busy, man.
Busy, busy. I know you've been busy, man. You've been all over the country the last few weeks. And
I mean, I don't know about the country, but
well, didn't you go to Atlanta?
yeah, but that ain't all over the country, It's just
Well,
keeping it dirty in the dirty South.
keeping it dirty. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No,
Well,
Atlanta's cool. Quick little wedding, and then just been camping, man, back and forth. Bunch of camps with the kids, with my two youngest, trying to get it in, man.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah, the camps and everything. Hey, man, I'm cool with that. I understand. I understand. There's a lot of stuff going on, man.
Shit, I mean, that's just like college camps, because like now
Yeah.
everybody want to have their little program specific, right? So like Cam's football coach got some stuff going on. We're doing that in the morning. And then the high school coach has got some workouts for the sixth, seventh, and eighth graders. And then they got basketball following that. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, like Friday is like the only day like where they don't have anything going on. And most likely we're going somewhere to play baseball. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
is real. Like I got a real schedule. Like I got to plan it out. I got stuff in there. Every time they ask me to do something, I'm like, let me look at my schedule.
Wow. Dang.
I need somebody to give me an assistant.
I'm telling you, bro. I'm telling you, I could use one. I could use one too. If you're able to talk somebody into that, see if you can throw in a good word for me.
Ain't nobody trying to do that, dude. So
I feel you.
I
I feel
can
you.
I couldn't pay nobody to do that. It really ain't that hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
Let's
am I? What
see.
am I? What am I jumping in on here?
Well, so there's a couple of things, man. Actually, one of the things right now is, and this just kind of came across this morning. So there is a committee on an FBS committee that is an oversight committee that is starting a discussion today, actually, on a single transfer portal window. Apparently, it would, like we talked about before, be from the 2nd to the 12th of January, starting in 2026, actually. So it would be immediately. And that the hope is to come out with a recommendation to begin a path to solidify that change before the season. And then they're looking to do that. There's a lot of momentum apparently for that after the House settlement, because you also have the other part of it that, this kind of hit at the end of the week. They do that damn dump on all this stuff of,
Yeah,
well, I guess it was more middle of the week, but there's new bills in Congress right now, the most direct plan yet to empower the NCAA on post-House rules taking shape. Now, they're talking about fully deputizing that College Sports Commission to be able to enforce the rules that they have out there, like requiring athletes to disclose their third-party NIL deals that are worth more than 600, allowing any entity, which is basically CSC or the NCAA, to establish a revenue sharing cap, and then to be able to preempt any state laws with a national law on NIL, which would also allow the conferences to enforce rules around transfers, eligibility length, paying of recruits, and then declare that college athletes are not employees and require that agents register with an entity such as the CSC or NCAA. I actually don't have a problem with that. If you're going to have, I like the idea of having, guys that are qualified to be an agent, or at least an attorney or something like that. You know what I mean? Just because we've seen a lot of people that have taken advantage of some of these kids that don't have strong family units like yourself. You know what I mean? You've seen it everywhere.
yeah.
The problem, and I'm going back to what I've been saying, and I think we've all been saying this, and I know you've been saying it a lot too. I don't necessarily have a problem with one transfer portal window. The other thing, but one of the things that I hadn't really brought up yet is that we talked about this before. I don't know that there's really any way that you can enforce that anyway. Because can you not just disenroll from a school and then show up somewhere else? And I do believe that even if Congress kind of, and it looks like they're trying to jump ahead and put this into place as quickly as possible, right? Because they're trying to do their best to not have to pay these kids or even collective bargain with the kids. And that's where I think that it comes in. I don't think that there's any way that that the Supreme Court doesn't get right involved in it immediately, or, federal courts in any way, if Congress acts like this, because of the fact that you can't just unilaterally step in there and decide what's right. This is exactly what's been wrong with college sports for a long time, in my opinion, anyway. And so, I mean, if you set and enforce rules unilaterally, it's going to limit your athletes, your sons, ability to negotiate fair terms. Some of this stuff, they could change these rules whenever they want because they just want to, right? I don't see, and if they grant them that antitrust protection, then now it takes all the power out of the players' hands to be able to sue. You know what I mean?
I do that. They're going to sue that.
Yeah, for sure.
They're going to sue the shit out of that.
Right.
Like I have a hard time committing brain power to the new changes and everything that's going on in college football, just for the fact that I have a feeling it's not going to stick and it's going to change. It's going to continue to change, and it's going to get sued. And I don't know, man. It's funny to me. Now all of a sudden they want to they could have been out in front of this, and they knew that the shit was gonna take place. You know what I mean? And the reverend of the NIL and all that stuff, they could have been a little bit more forward thinking. Like when I say they, the NCAA. And now they're just reacting, and it's not going to work, man. I don't have any faith in it working. I'm going to be completely honest with you.
Well, and even Congress hasn't done a very good job of passing it as well. But I know that the Republicans apparently are, and just so we understand each other, everybody, this is not, to me, a Republican Democrat thing. I don't give a shit. I'm just telling you what I'm reading here. And it says that the Republicans are all for pushing this forward. It's the Democrats that are saying that there should be collective bargaining in order to do that. So there's got to be some level of collective bargaining if you're going to get them on board. One of the things that they're trying to push through is, like what I said a few minutes ago, that they can't just pull your scholarship from you because you're not playing well or because you get injured, which that's already been in place, I think, at least partly. And then, although, that's how they have to kind of like tell you to get in the portal and that they'll help you get somewhere else, right? But what they can't do, and then the other part of it, they're acting like, that you're not, that injury, that you would take care of injuries for up to at least 2 years after you graduate from college, that they will take care of your injury, your medical stuff. Okay, fine. They already do that too, as well. And then plus they've already got it separated out where the training staff and medical sports medicine teams are not beholden to coaches. We've already known that, right? Not to say that there isn't some level of, I think in some places for sure, there's still some level of authority that the football coach can have over that medical staff or whatever. You know what I mean? I think the lines do get blurred. But that being said, that would be a law. Now, correct. Now, and look, collective and bargaining, that doesn't necessarily, and look, there are going to be a union. They are going to be a union, but it doesn't have to be a bad word to have a union. What I'm getting, and you don't even have to make them full-time employees. The NFL doesn't do that. They're under contract. They work as independent contractors in the NFL, right? Now, a lot of people don't think that it's fair the way that they do things because they don't even have to uphold any of their contracts. You know what I mean? The only thing that you are guaranteed in the NFL is whatever your signing bonus is, which that's another way that you could go about it if that's what you really want to do. But you still have to collectively bargain for that stuff, because if you don't, you're opening your nose, right? You're always opening your nose up like that. Yeah, you've been away for a while, man. Let's see.
Hey, I was not. Somebody asked me if I was at the OU camp. I can't remember who it was. This
Yeah, no, you
weekend,
did
no,
that.
I wasn't. I
Baseball,
can't.
huh?
Well, yeah, I had well, so last weekend. We'll see. Camp. I had Marcus there, and then Cameron was there at the youth camp the next. But yeah, this last weekend I was in Wichita for baseball. Woke up Sunday morning, came back, took my middle one, Marcus, to the Kansas State camp. Yesterday. So yeah, no, I wasn't there. What's up? Were you there? I wasn't there though. Anything go down? People beefing in the stands. Parents, hey, that youth camp. Hey, let me tell you something, man. That youth camp, that Sooner ball.
Yeah,
So they play like a version of like two-hand touch football, and
yeah.
they have like a little tournament for the kids at the end.
Do they?
So that when I was there that last time, dude, it was the parents was getting rowdy, bro. It was turning up, man. It was like youth sports all over again, like inside of the stadium right there, man. It was wild.
I
Dusty the
love it.
Vortex kid was balling, bro.
Dusty the Vortex kid?
Yeah,
Big
balling.
shocker. Big
Balling,
shocker.
dude. He was playing a kid that was obviously older and a little bit more developed and bigger, and he was kind of one on one. But yeah, he that was like good competition right there, dude. For some kids, it's pretty entertaining to watch. But yeah,
Oh,
there's some parents going in.
awesome. Awesome.
Yeah,
You know how that goes. You know how that
yeah,
shit goes. Um,
yeah.
so let's see. I was trying to, there was something here that somebody said a minute ago. Okay, TP, yeah, good job. I say union is a good thing for any worker. Union strong. Listen, I've been a part of a union before too when I was working in the refinery, which I hated that job, but I mean, you damn sure needed protection against the man in it. I'll just tell you that much. But Sugoi English, this is what I was looking at. So OU gives OU football 14 million out of that 20, which is about what it is going to be. I think that's about what it's going to be everywhere. But they need 20 to 25 million for the roster. Who's going to pay that? Boosters under the table without reporting it to the clearinghouse. Absolutely. So essentially what you're doing, it amazes me that this is the route that they think that they can go, because let's say that they pass it. Let's say that they pass it through Congress. Now, you know it's going to end up in court in some way, shape, or form after that, right? And in the meantime, do you think that Oklahoma or Texas or Alabama or Notre Dame or Ohio State or Michigan or USC are going to not pay whatever or find a way to get the money they need to get that quarterback, or to go get Nigel Kennedy to go pitch for your damn softball team? Because I
Hey,
don't
they
see
got
it.
us. Hey man, that million they paid Nija was cheap. That was cheap.
Oh yeah, they made money off that.
So much, dude. That's so much pub and publicity
Sure.
and
And now they're using it. Look, but they've been. Here's the thing. Here's the problem with all this right now. In the structure. The problem that I have with the structure way things are right now is that you realize that Texas Tech had their collective getting a hold of players at Texas and Oklahoma and all throughout the country in April, like in April and before, offering them contracts to leave while they were still playing. Deliberate tampering. So there's no, and you know, I mean, we can sit here and talk about that we don't like. I mean, not saying that Oklahoma doesn't do it, not saying that Texas doesn't do it or anybody else, just so you understand. I'm not saying that. What I'm telling you is that's not a good way to do business. And this is what leads to the shit like what we saw with Nico. You guys, everybody that bitched and complained about Nico, who taught him to do business that way? Tennessee did. By going to court. It's wild to me, man. It's fucking wild. Yeah, make sure you guys hit that like button. Let's go. Texas fans always say, yeah, I'm an old school Oklahoma fan, like Sooner legend. Okay. Idea of paying, okay, you would think that the idea of paying college players for decades, that they would have some structure in place. Well, they should have had some structure in place. They've been punting on this thing for decades though, because they love it. And this idea that if you don't change this or that or whatever, that without this deal, that you're going to make it to where none of these schools can afford to pay any of these players is laughable at best. It's laughable at best. Because the money has done nothing but go up. It's done nothing but go up. So I think that the people that are saying shit like that, I'm looking at them like, you gotta be shitting me, right? I mean, you just stop it already. Let's see. Oh, we got another guest coming to the stage from Locked On Oklahoma State. Our friend Cody Stovall.
Hey,
What's
buddy.
up there? What up, bro? How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Am I lagging on your end? Because my face is doing crazy things on my end.
A bit, just a little bit, but sometimes it'll work itself out after a couple of minutes. Just give it a second.
Okay, fair play.
What's up with you, man? How you been?
Good, man. Just got back from Omaha. It was good for the high school team. Not so great for Arizona, but nonetheless, man, it's always a good experience to get down that way and catch some high quality college baseball.
Nice.
Expensive high quality baseball.
It is. The justification was the 18U section of it all, but yeah, not bad, man.
Yeah. Rut-row business just picked up. Well, I know you've been paying attention to a lot of this stuff within, and I don't know if you know about the latest thing that they're trying to do right now is cut back to one portal window. I think a lot of people are probably on the side of being able to do that. But I can understand, and here's more of my question would be, and let me ask Bogue this real quick because I know you've been against that part. If they're going to go to a one portal window, first off, let's assuming that it's going to even matter because, if you do like what they did before.
You've already given my answer. You can't preface what I'm going to answer before you ask me the question.
I'm trying to assume that, but I'm trying to ask you if you know it's coming, and let's say whatever, let's just that they're going to go by it. Let's just assume, right? Would you rather it be in the spring or in January, that 10-day window? Because they're going to cut it back from 30 days of a window to 10 days now. I mean, it went from 90 days to 60 days to 30, and now we're going to 10.
Well, the only thing that I would say is you're limiting the kids' ability to go visit schools by shortening it at that time, thus promoting tampering in doing it with everything prior to the days. If you're going to do it in January, I don't care. That's great.
Yeah.
But at least give these kids to where, because 10 days, you might be able to go visit 2, maybe 3 schools.
If that.
You know what I mean?
That's a hell of a 10-day run, man. If you're
so
doing
condensed,
that,
and then you got to make a decision. You know what I mean? Get enrolled, move. It's just not very conducive to the athlete. Again, the NCAA and what they're doing is not really conducive to, being very athlete friendly. It's get out of here, miss me with that shit, bro. You're just making people tamper. You're just making schools tamper, and kids are going to be visiting schools outside the window because they have to.
Yeah.
Come on, man, pull your head out of your ass.
It feels like all of this is a push towards under the table shady dealings to me.
And then they're going to try to clamp down on people that are doing it. Bro, you forced the hand. You cannot tell me that people in the NCAA are. I don't know.
But they are. Cody, please step in.
Hey, man, I'm just a lay person sitting in the basement of his son's old room. That has got a college degree in criminal justice. You know what I mean? That happened, played football, happened to get a degree, served the army. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but come on, man. Come on.
I understand.
Come on.
Cody, what are your thoughts?
Tampering is an inevitability. It's always happened. It's always going to happen. The people that have the backdoor donors are going to continuously find ways to get the best athletes. There's no way around that. As it pertains to the window for the portal, you know what? Before I got into this job as a fan, I just said we need to have one window and one window only. Yeah. But the more that I've kind of, gotten into this and had relationships with some of the players, I don't necessarily agree with one portal window, primarily because how many times do coaches have conversations with kids, getting them to stay throughout the course of the spring, maybe not necessarily promising things, but giving them a direction on what spring is going to look like. And then post spring, they pull the rug out from underneath them, and those players have to find a way to have the ability to get on the football field very late in the process. So because of the convoluted nature in which coaches address players, I don't feel like it's fair to the players to only have one window because coaches can pull the wool over their eyes whenever they want to, essentially.
That's a fact. And that's the thing is a lot of these things, these rules, it's like Boganowski just said, they're putting these rules out there that are, to me, it's unfairly penal for the athlete, but it doesn't really hurt them. You know what I mean? And how are you going to, the thing about it is that, because we know that a lot of times these portal entries are happening because the coach tells them to go get in the portal.
Lately, yeah, that's definitely more prevalent ever since we had to get down to the 105 roster limitation thing, yeah.
You can take as much time as you decide, but here's the thing. If it's in January, right, and you're past enrollment time, then you're going to have to wait until summer, which means what are you doing for that amount of time? That means you're not in a spring program. That means you're not able to do any of that kind of stuff. Now, they would have to change rules. I don't know why they can't change rules around that as well. But to me, I think if you're going to go to one, it should be the spring myself.
That I could kind of understand. But because until you make your decisions on the spring roster, it's all kind of crazy anyways. You know what I mean? Like, I don't necessarily think that there should be particular windows because the conversations are happening no matter what, right? And I correlate this to the Justin Kirkland thing when everybody was saying that BYU was tampering and da-da-da. It's just casual conversation. So these casual conversations where they had buddies they played high school with or they played JUCO ball with or whatever, these are never going to stop, right? So you're not going to be able to corral the conversations of people saying, hey, you should come to X, Y, and Z university. Therefore, the window to me doesn't really make a lot of sense to have multiple windows, but at the same point in time, make the window advantageous for the student athlete because the coaches can essentially say whatever they want.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. Isn't there still early and late enrollment at universities? That's always been the excuse for not moving it to the end of the damn season is the point. But even if you add 5 days or something for the teams that are still in it or whatever, going to January 2nd, most teams will be done by then, right?
Well, and you guys have probably already addressed this. I will say that no matter what happens, there needs to get rid of the portal in the middle of the bowl games and the playoffs. Like, that is absolutely asinine to try to convince kids to stay and play in this big game, but also forego the opportunities. Because if you miss out on opportunities, you could miss out on a lot of money.
Exactly. And think about this. We talk about Nico Imaliava and what he did before the playoff and all that stuff. But guess what? Because the portal was open is what opened that ability to be able to leave right then, right? And again, I've said this a bunch that Tennessee kind of kicked this thing over. You know what I mean? They started all this with Nico when they were paying him and flying him all over the country and when he was in high school still. And it was against the rules at the time when they were doing it too. And then once it got too much for them to palate, then they decided to, play, this is just terrible. Now they have a problem with the what's the whatever. The idea of anybody being able to play that there's a problem with this as far as how you're doing things and that we're going to start acting holier than thou if you're in any position other than the athlete's position is ridiculous to me because they've been doing this to athletes for a long time, and they're going to continue Yeah, and just like Greg Ray, it's the NCAA. Leave it up to them. They'll fuck it up. They will. They're going to fuck it up every time.
Well, you
So,
mentioned Tennessee doing some nefarious activities to help
yeah, come
Nico
on, man.
Almalinia, but they're not going to catch any flack over it. Why? Because they're in the SEC and they produce a lot of TV numbers and they're a cash cow. But let's face it, if this was Virginia Tech, boy, the NCAA would coming down hard, but it's not, so they're not gonna.
Well, I believe that it was Virginia that was with them on that deal before as well. So I don't know that that's necessarily right. But I know that we want to be anti-SEC over in the Big 12. I do understand that part. But
No, it's just common sense that whenever you look at look at the basketball infractions a couple years ago, nobody really got popped for that, even though there was like thousands of emails that were found and deleted,
Sure.
and LSU was mixed in a lot of that crap. South Carolina was involved in it, but nothing happened. Nothing happened to any of them. And Oklahoma State got a ban. Memphis got a temporary ban because they're not the big cash cows, in my personal opinion. I think it's pretty obvious. Nothing against the SEC.
I don't necessarily disagree with you on that one. No, I agree. Now, this is a good question, though, that Pulaw has. Did Tennessee get their money's worth from Nico? Well, I would think they would. They went to the damn playoff.
Probably, yeah.
Did Nico get all that money, though? That's the question. How much of that money in the contract did Nico get? You know what I mean? That's the real question.
No, he still had 2 more years. He still had 2 more years of $2 million.
So he left that on the table. So yeah, I'd probably say Tennessee got a good money's worth out of that.
They did well. They did well with it. They hadn't paid it all up to him. It wasn't all upfront money. But yeah, make it one time a year. Bowl games have to matter if fans are going to continue to criticize or count bowl losses for whatever. In the end, if the bowl games are going to matter, they're not going to. This bowl games are kind of becoming a thing. I mean, they're going to be there because you can. I mean, it's a football game and people will watch them, but being able to keep kids around for bowl games is not probably going to happen.
Well, at this point in time, the only thing a bowl game is useful for is an extension of the training to get the younger cats ready for the next season, right? That's essentially what it is. It's an extra 40 some odd practices or whatever that you get a better look at some of the younger guys. So I will say, as an extension of getting guys prepared for the next season, that's basically all bowl games are really good for anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. In the end, that single portal window, I think it's a little sketchy. And like, well, Penn State Sports Talk says, I don't want a single window. I think if you're going to do it, you have to do it to where everybody's doing it at the same time. And then again, I don't even know that it matters. Again, we talked about the kid from Wisconsin that they told him he couldn't leave.
Right.
That he didn't even get into the portal. He just left school.
Yep.
Unenrolled, split. And 2 weeks later, he's on the practice field at Miami.
Yeah.
And no portal. And there was nothing they could do about it. So I think a lot of these things that as we look at this is not going to really make a lot of sense until you actually, this is why the whole house settlement, where I was going with it a minute ago, and you pay attention to a lot of the stuff that the Wild Ute says. He's big on this clearinghouse deal for the Deloitte clearinghouse thing, which I think is just asinine all the way around. To think that you're going to, all they're doing is pushing this back under the table. Just like what you said, they're making rules that you know they got to break in order to be successful. And I think it's the same thing with this. The NIL stuff, first off, they're making more money now than they've ever made before. It continues to grow year after year. And when it goes to 16 next year, it's going to be even more money, right? And it's going to continue to grow. It's not going to go away. But they're acting like they're going to break these universities if they make these guys employees. I think that's bullshit. I think they have not shown me any example of that being a factual. It just isn't. These universities are bringing in money through that program that's paying for all these other sports. So that's where I feel like it's one of those, it's bullshit. But what you keep saying is that these are unfair NIL deals, and it's just they're not fair. That fair market value thing is weird to me because I want to. Who in the fuck is this Deloitte people, and why did they get to decide what's real and what isn't? And my other argument to that is you're worth whatever somebody's willing to pay you.
That's right. If a third string offensive tackle has a company that wants to give him $500,000 to never play, that's their prerogative. It should be, anyways.
That's why they're going to get the shit suit out of him. That's why they're going to get the shit suits out of it. And that's the real question, bro. Somebody needs to do the research on this Deloitte people. Like, who are they? What are their connections? Like, let's put on a conspiracy hat and let's figure out who the hell they are.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole point that I'm trying to make is what the fuck are we talking about? That how are you going to figure out that this is not worth this? Because they've even come out and said that 90%, I think they said it was 90% of deals, NIL deals that went through a collective would have been killed by Deloitte, right? Which means that that's most of the deals around the country, right?
Yeah.
You only have what, maybe 5 players per year that get a national NIL or an endorsement deal, basically is what it is. Like you saw Michael Hawkins got in with Quinn Ewers on the Dr. Pepper thing whenever he was starting for those few weeks, right? He got some money out of that. But those things are rare. Those things are rare.
Yeah, but the collective ain't true NIL.
No,
you know what I mean?
Not.
So you can't say Deloitte would have a problem with what the current NIL is, right? The current collectives, like, because it doesn't even, it's like oil and water, right? It's not even the same.
Right. And
but under this new thing, though, it under this new system, it may be like, it may merge, and well, I ain't gonna say it may merge, but it's gonna be separate, right? So you're gonna have the revenue share, what they're gonna get paid, and then you're gonna have like what the true essence of NIL was supposed to be before collectives came along and kind of circumvented the system, right? So now you're gonna really have like people out there trying to do commercials, run camps, and advertising stuff.
Okay. What's wrong with that? And what is wrong with paying them what they're worth? You know what I mean? Or whatever the money is. They're still going to find ways around doing it.
What I'm saying is you said that Deloitte would have a problem with the current how people are being played right now. And you can't do that because it's not going to be the same. That's what I'm saying.
Well, the thing is because, here's the thing. Even if this was something that we were talking about before you guys came in, even if they approved it, that's going to go against your cap too. So let's say you've already decided to pay this kid X amount of dollars. Let's say it's $1 million is for your quarterback, right? So now you only have 14 left because you're getting, 15 million of your cap is going to the football program. So that's $1 million. You got 14 left, but then he goes and gets $1 million deal that gets approved to be to go in and be an endorse some company, right? That's going to go against your cap. That's going to go against your salary cap. So in other words, you're making it to where they really can't make that money, or you're going to have to you just can't, unless they're going to do it under the table. It's forcing this to be, and you know what? I like what Penn State says. Reduced flexibility means players risk losing exposure, which directly impacts their earnings. Absolutely. They hinge on timing. Athlete branding momentum will not be helped with that. I would agree with a lot of that kind of stuff to what you're getting at. The point being is you can't tell people what you can pay for somebody, what you can pay for their services, whatever they may be. And that goes right back to them telling you, man, Mike, when you were playing ball at New Mexico State, you couldn't have a job. You know what I mean? You couldn't have a job to make any money.
In the summer you could.
Yeah.
In the summer you could.
Yeah, but you had to go along some guidelines or whatever, right?
Bro, we broke that shit fucking big time, bro.
I'm aware that it was New Mexico State. I get it.
We broke that shit, bro. We weren't paying attention to that shit.
Yeah. No, you can't allow it. It's so, in other words, if they allow the Deloitte thing to like stand, then you're going right back to the way things used to be. You're basically, it's commie, man. It's communistic all the fucking way to do this shit. Insane. And you keep saying, it's unfair because, and know what he's bitching about is that BYU's kicking their fucking ass in NIL. And he hates that shit because they're used to having some power over BYU the last 10 years or so, and he hates it. And so they're bitching and complaining about it's not fair and these are extravagant deals. Who the fuck are you to just tell somebody what they can and can't make? And essentially, basically, what you're all about your team winning, and you don't like it that they're not going to be able to spend the same amount as BYU. Well, sorry, but that's the name of it. It's never been about fairness, man. Fair is where you go to judge and butcher pigs.
And get large turkey legs.
That too. Funnel cakes.
Yeah.
Cody?
I don't necessarily have much to add. I just think that you're 100% right. You're reverting back to the system that existed before NIL, the black bag special, right? I don't think any of this changes any of that. If anything, this exacerbates the situation and makes it considerably worse. I don't even know how they came to this decision, though. That's the perplexing part. The NCAA has had no guardrails. They have had no interest in trying to, navigate NIL smoothly. And now all of a sudden, the answer is for a third-party entity to start being the arbiter of what kids are allowed to get. This whole thing has gotten crazy, and it almost feels like we're getting closer and closer to a system where we just blow everything up and go to the NFL model where you have two divisions. I feel like, if anything, this is another way to kind of guide us towards that, which almost feels purposeful.
Yeah. Yeah, the bagman will be back for damn sure, though. That's the whole thing. The bagman's never going away. Well, yeah, you don't need the bagman right now. The bagman's unneeded. The guy's out of work.
The bagman delivering things in dark alleys has been unnecessary for the last couple of years, but I feel like this might take it right back to that. So instead of getting an NIL deal through a company, we're going to go back to you showing up to your campus with a bag of cash. Did you go away on us? Oh, there you are.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, keep on going, man. I'm trying to fix. You're lagging still, so I'm trying to fix it on this.
Well, here, let me back out and try to back in.
Okay.
Let me restart my internet and shit.
Okay.
I'll burb.
Yeah, I was trying to look and see if it was something on my end, but I don't think it is. I have everything cleaned up. Could be. Let me see. You get some of this other stuff turned off. I don't know, man. It just, to me, it's all weird. The whole thing sucks because I feel like you're going right back down that rabbit hole. Now, do I think it's going to work? No, I don't. I don't think that you're going to unring the bell that you've already rang. You know what I mean? Huh? What's that? Now we're getting echo.
Oh yeah, something happened right there. I don't know what that was, but something happened.
Let me see. Is it echoing now? Is it echoing now? No. Okay, doesn't seem to be. OSU Cody needs an NIL deal. OSU Cody does have an NIL deal. No, I'm just kidding. Or a new charger. And rules are made to be broken. Says the college athlete. I love it. Hey, how you feeling, Shawty, man? Hope you're feeling better, man. Thinking about you. And while we're thinking about that, too, shout out to Trap House Booming. They had a death in the family. Make sure you're saying prayers for Big Trap and his family right now. Hoping everything's going okay with them. And Shawty, too, man. Bro had a little motorcycle type or ATV accident of some kind, man. He fucked himself up pretty bad. So hope you're feeling better today, brother. I know you're okay and gonna live through it, but man, I didn't like seeing that. Oh man. Let's see. No echo. Sounds good. Okay. Yeah, the rain so far this late spring is just annoying. Yep. Yeah, but these rules were made to be broken. And look, I think that they're going to continue breaking them. And it just doesn't make sense. They were making these comments beforehand, before they finished the deal, the settlement deal, that because they were talking about Tennessee trying to break and circumvent rules by going through the governor and all that stuff in the state. And you heard all these, and even Joe C was one of them saying, we can't be doing this. We have to give it a real chance to do this and that. Well, you know what? And I heard the guy from Baylor saying this stuff about Mac Rhodes is who it was. And he was saying, well, what's the whole point of doing this settlement at all then if we're not going to do it? Right? If we're just going to go to, paying these exorbitant amounts. This all boils down to that they don't want to have to pay the money that they're making to get these athletes. They want to hold on to their money at those schools. Now, look, I'm not telling you that I think it's all fair. And again, I'm going to say fair is not what this is about. But in the end, it's all going to end up going to either 2 or 3 big conferences, and that's what's going to end up happening. I don't really care what ends up happening as long as the players are getting their fair share of it and they have some level of say in what the rules are on, otherwise, here's the other thing too. If they go and just arbitrarily implement these rules, could you not see these players just saying, you know what? Okay, we're not playing then. You know what I mean? I would. That's exactly what I would do. So, I mean, that's just me, but okay. Cody. Yeah, you're not.
I'm back.
That's better.
Yay.
Okay. Let's see. Seems like old heads like Alabama Jones like the bag man. They do.
Any team that has that ability is definitely going to love the back man. Oklahoma State's just never really had that. So of course I'm going to be on the other side.
Oil man. Yeah, you got Boone.
We did have an oil man at one.
The Boone man, the old Boone. Yeah.
Our saving grace in NIL has been those daggone concerts. Like honestly, without doing those concerts, we wouldn't have half the roster that we have. Definitely. Because Boone left us some money, but it was earmarked for specific things, right? That's, I think, part of the reason Dr. Casey Schrum got in some hot water is because she had disagreements with naming things of other donors, and it just got kind of crazy. But nonetheless, yeah, if you have a bag man, then you're going to love them. Like Texas A&M, they don't care if we do NIL, bagman, old school, new school. They don't give a crap. Neither does Miami. Neither does Texas. Neither does Bama, right? There's a list of schools that don't really care how this comes about. They're going to continue to build their rosters the way they see fit.
Yeah. Well, and you just look at, and this is absolutely right. Some of this is going to kick down to the fans. It's already kicking down to the fans, 100%. Brother. Yep. It's already kicking down to the fans.
Well, Oklahoma
tickets
State,
are more expensive every.
We raised ticket prices after a 3-win season. I mean, there's times, right? There's times that increases in tickets and things around the campus is costing more money makes sense. But make that one make sense, right? We just won 3 games. Congratulations. Now you're going to pay more. It's a wild ride. And realistically, what it's doing is alienating some of the old school fans, right? Sure. The individuals that have grown up loving the sport, they can't recognize it anymore. And it's not getting...
Look, and I have some level of understanding to that. I've gotten to the point where I get tired of hearing the whiny bitches that are saying, well, no, it's not right for these kids to get paid and they're not worth this. They're not worth it. You know what? The NFL kids haven't played a snap in the NFL either. You know what I mean? And they get paid what they get paid.
The NFL needs to up what they're paying rookies, like plain and simple. Like if they want dudes to come out and come to the NFL, they need to try to match what these colleges are paying them.
This is what the NFL wants, though. You know why? Because they have a union and they know that means that they get more time. The longer these kids stay in school, they love NIL. I promise you they love that shit in the NFL. The players do, because that means it's more time for them. Most of these guys don't last very long in the NFL.
Right.
That's why, not for long. NFL, not for long. think about it. If you make sure that you get through that first contract, your chances are maybe you get to stay a little longer. When these new kids come in all the time, they're taking their spots. You know what I mean? And so you can bet your ass that the NFL players are like, oh, let them stay as long as they fucking want.
You see it all the time, especially at the quarterback position.
No, the players don't care. That's what I'm saying. The players don't care. But if they want to like be competitive with freaking, if they want to be competitive with college football and what they're paying some of these dudes, like, yeah, they got to do better.
Yeah. Well, they're definitely pricing people out, and that's another one of it's not an issue for them. They don't care that they're pricing you out, just so you understand that. And so,
obviously not.
It is what it is. It is, and I think that sucks because they tell you that it's important, and they act like, it's so, I mean, they're always coming to the fans to donate and do this and that, alumni. I mean, they're always coming after us. They want money from us all the time. I get something in the mail all the time. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, well, in the end, you have to know that a lot of this stuff is just going to be that way, but you can't, this idea of if you make them an employee, then it's gonna just completely break. They're gonna bankrupt all these schools is bullshit. I've seen nothing that makes me believe that. Nothing that makes me believe that.
Well, and it's up to the school to prioritize. And now, obviously, football is going to be the bus driver when it comes to financials, but there's going to be some universities that decide to focus more on basketball or baseball. And yeah, I think it's at the end of the day, what used to be a sport for the fans has now become, I don't want to say that fans are insignificant, but if you show up, great. If you don't, great. If you complain, whatever. It's just become such a business-oriented model that it's hard for the fans to have the same engagement, to have the same experience.
Sure. Well, and I think it depends on, like, this is a question. Someone's going to buy those tickets. That may be true at Oklahoma and at Oklahoma State too. But think about something. The year that they don't play very well, then they stop coming. You've seen a bunch of times where these non-con games against crap teams, people don't show up. Right? They don't necessarily show up unless it's a good game. Or they'll try to sell their tickets. You buy season tickets with the thought of, well, the games I don't really want to go to or we can't make it to, we'll just sell them. You might.
Well,
there's a lot of those tickets that go unsold.
That whenever you play the UT Martins, the Chattanoogas of the world, that part of that is giving more fans an experience. Because most fans, at least, okay, I don't want to say most fans, but a good number of fans cannot designate ticket prices and game day for a big game.
Correct.
Right. But you can get a UT Martin ticket for, $35 or something to that effect. So it's a good way to fill the stadium and grow the fan base, in my personal opinion. And you're kind of, I think, doing away with that. Because now the UT Martin game is still going to be less expensive than playing, a ranked Utah, but it's still more expensive than it used to be.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm looking right now. I looked last night. I think I was looking at the Michigan game. What's the ticket's going to be for the Michigan game? I couldn't find anything under $500. Nothing.
That's nuts.
Right now. Now, I also looked at just to see what the difference was. You could buy a Kent State ticket for, I think it was $26 was the cheapest one.
Yeah. Yeah.
500 to 26. That's the spread. You know what I mean? And now as you get closer to the end of the, before the game gets there, and even on game day, those prices go significantly down to try to sell them. Right. And that's just the game that you have to play if you don't have a season ticket. But in the end, those prices are going to be what they are. And those prices are going up for season ticket holders as well. They're going to start doing the seat licenses like they do a lot of other places as well too.
Well, right? If you noticed, one thing that a lot of places are starting to do now is make the amenities in the stadium better, aka they're cutting down seats, which means they're okay with not having massive capacities anymore. And when people are rebuilding stadiums, they're making their seating smaller and they're fancying the seats up a bit to make it more of an inclusive experience, I guess you could say. But the days of just packing the fans in the building and getting the biggest building possible, those are kind of dead.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, and you don't know how Tennessee could get access to whole Ohio Stadium because they were able to sell those things for shit tons of money. Because Tennessee, this is their first trip to the playoff. It's not your first time to go to the shoe if you're an Ohio State fan.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Especially if you're if you've got tickets, it's not your first time that you've been to the shoe. So to them, it was marked up so much, and the Tennessee fans were happy to pay it because they just knew they were going to go in there and win that game. Right. Acted the fool in the whole 9 yards. But I agree with what you would like to believe is that why would you do that? Why would you sell your tickets like that? Well, it happens. It's the same way. I mean, the Red River is supposed to be split down the middle, and one side is Texas and one side's Oklahoma. It doesn't mean you don't see specks of orange in the crimson and specks of crimson in the orange. It happens, right? But overall, it is what it is, and it's not a good idea to sit in one of those other sections if you're at the Red River, I promise. You don't want to sit with Texas fans at all. You do not. But again, and Benji, that's what I was saying. You wait until game week, maybe game day a lot of times to buy tickets. I've never worried about that. If I don't have a ticket or something, I always get them when I get there, Hell, you can get them from a scalper. Now, these days, that's not, paper tickets are kind of a thing of the past. So you need to, you know what I mean? I don't buy all that shit. But that being said, I mean, it does price people out, I think, and I think it's not fair. In the end, what all this is, let me just ask you what you think. Do you think that this stuff, I was talking about the other things too, do you think this Deloitte stuff is going to go through? Do you think, or do you just see this being a lot more litigation, and what are we doing?
I think it'll temporarily go through, but I think Bo nailed it earlier. The instance that there's a lawsuit, then there's going to be more, and then it's going to pile up, and it's going to get changed anyways. So, yeah, I almost feel like it's just a partial dog and pony show. Like, it's a way for them to say, look, we're trying, but what we're trying to do is making things worse. Again, it makes it difficult for me to see it as somewhat purposeful. Like, there's not powers to be that want it to eventually get to an NFL more readily available system. So it just feels like they're squeezing, and eventually they're going to run us all out of Dodge. Not all of us, but, by and large. The thing that I feel like is getting forgotten about here, and this is from the SEC, Big Ten, whomever, the Greg Sankeys of the world, is, you can do the best for the SEC, you can do the best for the Big Ten, but they seem to fail to remember that fans from all these other sports, all these other schools, they watch, they contribute, they buy tickets, they show up. So the alienation of the fan base seems to be the biggest conundrum in all of this for me.
I'm surprised by a lot of it, and I don't want to get too far in these weeds right now, but I'm struggling to understand the 5-11 idea from the Big 12 in view of the fact that I think you need to get as many people in the playoff as you can and deal with that. This idea that it makes us look like lesser, I think it's the stupidest thing in the world. You know what? Because here's the deal. What are you going to look like when you get one a year for the next 6 years, or maybe 1 year or two that you get an extra one? You're going to get guaranteed 12 out of it right now. But I get what they're talking about of, if you look like half, or you admit to being half of the conferences or whatever, then that's the way you're going to get treated. Shut up, dude. You could have fought that last year when you gave them all the money and all the power to make the changes, right? That's where I think, as much as I've been a fan of Brett Yormark, other than certain things, but I think that he's done a very good job of working for that conference. I think he bumped his head here.
Yeah, I would say, he's still operating a 90% success rate, but there has been a couple decisions that he's made that are kind of head scratchers. Well, the most recent one being to announce that he's not going to do the third party proprietary, partnerships where major companies will spend $1 billion to own 10% of the league.
So
or something.
How are you going to compete?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know why he would throw something like that out, then see the Big Ten and the SEC kicking around, and then announce that we're not going to do it. So, and then abandoning rivalries, I think that is another big cash cow that the Big 12 is missing out on. And now this, I don't want to say that Brett Yormark's losing his luster per se, but at the end of the day, I
There's a
think
few missteps here. It feels like it almost feels. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know what they're doing.
I don't know, but he might be leaning on the fact that we haven't won yet, right? TCU had an opportunity, didn't take advantage of it, even though they did beat Michigan. Nope, nobody wants to talk about that. But nonetheless, that was a
When you get
capitalization moment.
housed in the championship game, it kind of takes the luster off the first win.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
And so that was a black eye in regards
Sure.
to the national perception of the Big 12. And then Arizona State versus Texas. Could they have won? Yeah. Maybe should they have won? Yeah. But did they win? No. At the end of the day, they didn't. So that's yet another black eye. And then Houston losing to Florida in the national title game. So the Big 12's had instances where they could have capitalized, and we haven't done that yet. And maybe from that perspective, Brett Yormark does act out of a little bit of frustration. And if that's the angle, then I don't necessarily disagree. It's one thing for the Big 12 to say, hey, we're just like everybody else. We're just as good as everybody else. But until we prove it, it's just words, right? It's the same with the ACC.
Yeah.
SMU or anybody can say, hey, we're as good as everybody else. Florida State, Miami, Clemson, they have that old school cachet, but it doesn't matter if they're not
they've
winning.
won national championships. And I mean, SMU was SMU back. They're not what they used to be back in the the Pony Express days. That's not the same. Now, not to say that they can't afford every dollar that they can, that they don't need to get paid by the ACC to be able to play this game. Right.
Yeah, they firmly believe that their NIL budget is going to keep them at the top half of college football for the foreseeable future. And it's hard to argue against that.
No, I don't know that you can, because unless you're able to really, this is where I feel like maybe this is where some of these schools do want to do this, because they know they can't keep up with people like that, or Notre Dame or A&M in Texas, for instance, the same thing, Ohio State and Michigan. These deep blue bloods like that in the Big Ten especially, they make shit tons of money. You know what I mean? They make shit tons of money.
Oh yeah.
So, and to the point that even the schools that, we know Oklahoma makes a lot. We know that Texas and Texas A&M make a shitload. But there's levels to this shit. And what they do in the Midwest and at those schools like Michigan and Ohio State, it's almost similar to what you see at like Harvard and shit like that, on the amount of money they raise for those universities.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's just that at Harvard and shit, they don't give a fuck about sports. They're not going to spend it on that shit. You know what I mean? But I don't know. To me, yeah. And look, I don't have a problem with the expansion of the playoff. I'm not that guy that's going to sit here. Now, do I think that there's 16 teams that can win the national championship? I do not. But I don't think that matters. I don't think that.
Dude, I actually think we should go back to like 8. I think this is getting a little bit muddy, and it's coming down to money.
Yeah, it's
right?
it's about how much they can squeeze. Yeah,
it's not about putting the best product on the field. It's not about highlighting the best players in the country. It's about giving the most games that get the most money. Another thing that's not being talked about, in my personal opinion, enough is the amount of games that these kids are playing right now. If you battle through the season, you make the CFP, play in the national title game, you're almost playing an NFL schedule now. And I think from a health perspective, because the money is better, nobody's necessarily taking into consideration what it does to these young dudes.
Yeah, it's definitely not about, well, and that's the thing. If we're not taking it, and they're not taking into consideration what any of the athletes, what's better for any of the athletes. That's not what it is. Even if they go along and they pass all this stuff about your health care or whatever for however long after you're out of school, and you can't take their scholarship away or whatever because they suck after you got them. Can't do it. A lot of that stuff's already in place, and it doesn't matter.
Correct.
Right? The point is, there's no way that you can finally, I mean, where I'm at on it is, look, if you don't have collective bargaining of any kind, you're creating a complete imbalance, which is exactly what they've always had. The balance of power was there was power one here and there was zero on the other side. So they can do whatever the fuck they want. So if they decide, okay, yeah, well, we always gave you a scholarship. You got your degree for free. Oh, come on, man. And how many people never used it? You know what I mean? They didn't even, it had nothing to do with that. Don't get me started on college. But if you're just going to enforce rules unilaterally and they don't have any say in it whatsoever, then what's the difference? This is really what we settled for? So you could go back and create more imbalance like that to where they can come back and sue you 20 years from now again for $150 billion? I mean, what are we talking about here? I don't see how this could finally go through. I think, and if they're worried about litigation, why are they trying to push through rules that are bringing litigation?
Like I said, man, it's hard to look at it as not somewhat purposeful. I mean, these are probably very intelligent dudes that are making these decisions that understand that there's going to be a lot of blowback. So, again, these things that are happening, they feel purposeful to me.
Yeah. The more the better, if you ask me. Well, here's the thing. The reason that the more the better is if you're going to continue doing this, because look, I've been on the record as saying this, the SEC and the Big Ten cutting out 3/4 of the country's teams doesn't help the end product. In fact, it kills it.
Yeah.
And whether or not they can win doesn't matter. Whether or not a team can win, it doesn't matter. I mean, that was clear last year. They don't tell me that SMU could have won that fucking thing or Boise, because they couldn't have. SMU couldn't beat BYU in their own house. You know, and the same goes for, I mean, come on, Indiana, who the hell they play?
Yeah, I was excited about the expansion of the CFP, but after watching the product, I was like, well.
The early rounds of it, and especially the way they seeded it, it was so stupid. The straight seeding, I don't mind. The straight seeding, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, I don't think, and this is being a Big 12 guy, I don't think that Boise State or Arizona State should have received a bye. I don't feel like that.
Arizona State kind of got it by default, right? Because with Clemson, yeah, when Miami gagged that one away and didn't make it into the conference championship game, and now you got a 9-3 Clemson in the championship game, and then they beat SMU. Now you've got a 9-3 team in. They did not want to put them, because again, they're favoring wins over strength of schedule, which I would say, even if you think about Clemson, that other loss was to Georgia. You know what I mean? They lost to Georgia. They lost to, what was it? I think it was Louisville, Georgia, and then they lost that one to Syracuse.
Yeah, but does anybody think if
not Boise Syracuse, State, it was South Carolina.
If they didn't have Ashton Genty, would they have been in the playoff?
No.
There you go.
Yeah.
Again, proving more than anything that it's about the viewership.
SMU could have beaten Indiana. Why do you think that, though, Benji? I mean, it's easy to sit there and say that, but
Indiana did look very rough, very, very rough. I think Indiana looked to be the team that was the most exposed.
Yeah, well, they didn't play. I mean, they literally had a FCS team that he brought with him from James Madison.
Yeah.
And it worked out to where they gave them the easiest fucking schedule that you could possibly get until you.
Not only that, like the Big Ten outside of Michigan, outside of Ohio State, it's pretty pretty normal.
Well, in Oregon was good all year. They were undefeated. They'd beaten Ohio State. I
think Oregon was the best team in the regular season last year.
They were, but I mean, in the end, I mean, you know, they ran into a buzzsaw, and once they got to the Rose Bowl, which okay.
That and another thing, the teams that got the byes didn't perform very well, by and large.
They're gonna work on that shit too. I think you have to. I don't think you can. See, this is why are we waiting so long to start the fucking thing?
Right. Yes, that bye proved to not be very advantageous for
no, because it's a month off, and somebody just played and won to get to you, and so they've got, you know, now they're back in their groove, and you've been sitting for a month.
Yep.
It's
And
one
the
thing when they
only
used to have the BCS or even the 14 playoff. That shit don't start till January. They all wait till January.
The only benefit is for health purposes, right?
Sure.
But as I was saying earlier, when you're playing 14, 15-ish games, you're going to be banged up. It is what it is,
Sure.
and that's where depth proves to
That's why
be
I
a
don't
little
understand
bit.
that's why I don't understand the roster limits that they're dropping roster limits back, and you're gonna have to play more games.
Yeah, well, and
Makes no
so
sense.
the extra COVID year obviously screwed everything up because we had a bunch of 6-year, 7th-year dudes all over the country. And now that all the COVID dudes are gone, is our chance to clean it up, and now we do this. Now, the one benefit is if you're a D2, D3, NAI, JUCO coach,
Yeah.
you're pretty happy. Honest to God's truth. So the lower levels of football just got a massive boost. I actually do love that JUCO rule. And being in the recruiting game, what is happening now is some of those fringe level dudes, they're going straight to JUCO now. Or they're exploring, they're purposely looking for JUCOs. Like if they know they're a fringe D1 guy that might play a little bit at Tulsa, well, now they're just more or less.
Well, they don't mind going and playing there either, and because
Yeah.
they can be a late bloomer.
You're going to give me 2 years to develop, and it's not going to cost me anything. Yeah, and now I'm going to show up as a D1 guy that's older, bigger, stronger, faster, more mature. Yeah, I think so. The lower levels of football do get the benefits out of this 105 roster limitation, but as you'd mentioned, it's not beneficial to the current rosters and the current teams to have to get down to this number, especially when you're playing this amount of games, because depth is going to be paramount now.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Northside, that's a game that Jackson Arnold could definitely lose. They save money. Yeah. Oh, there you go. What are you saying here? Big Bo got a call from Sark setting up an OV for his. Oh, he's got jokes. Yeah. Roster limits save money. Yes. Again, none of it. If you pay attention, I'm glad you said that, TP, because this is all you really have to do. If you want to know whose side you should be on, take a look at who does it benefit. No matter what the issue is, who does it benefit? There's no way that benefits the athletes. There's no way that really benefits your program necessarily, but it saves money for your university, which is all they care about. And I know a lot of people like to count the money for the university for whatever fucking reason. I don't do that. You know what? You paid your way to get into the game, whether you went to the school or not, or if you went to school, you paid shit tons to get your degree. You paid them enough. Fuck that money. You know what I mean? They're getting plenty of it too. Again, by the way, they're getting plenty of it. It's getting more and more all the time.
And I don't know that it necessarily saves a whole lot of money, right? Because previously you could have 85 scholarship dudes up to 135 guys, which means you could have a crap ton of walk-ons. But
walk-ons are going to be a thing of the past. Everybody's going to have to get a scholarship now. That's worth money to the university.
But you're going to have to, in my opinion, and I could be wrong, you're probably going to have to pay more. So previously, the roster number 85 was not going to get much of anything other than a scholarship. Now you're going to have to essentially pay all 105 dudes something. So sure. I get it that it might save money, but I think that's more theoretical because less players doesn't necessarily mean less money.
Well, in the end, none of this would be happening if they were going to be hurting for money. Just understand that. And this is a level. This is why I always tell you guys, and you know that on this show, you're going to get from me, fuck that. It's not the schools it's not the players that are greedy. It's the fucking universities and the NCAA and it's not the player. I don't want, and I understand that there can be some bad actors and their parents can be, but guess what? The people that are doing that stuff, it's not because of the athletes either. It's because of what they've been, the people that are advising them or, the schools themselves. Somebody's doing it dirty. The tampering stuff doesn't happen because a kid just decides to tamper. That doesn't happen either. It happens because a coach tells a kid to call another kid.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. And
Or at
so
least
as long as we're
dropping
going to
the
talk
innuendo.
about these things, I'm going to always say I will side with the athlete 100% every time.
Yeah, it's hard not to, whenever you see kind of some of the inner workings of how recruiting goes down and some of the things that happen, it becomes more and more evident that the kids are the ones that are traditionally getting screwed more often than not.
Yeah. Walk-on/POW has been getting scholarships after a year. Yeah, well, that's an
They
easy
used
thing
to. Now they cut you loose.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing is I thought that the settlement was going to, some of those people that they had to cut loose because of the judge had made such a thing about it that you were going to be able, but they had already cut them loose. They should be bringing some of those people back, at least for their scholarship stuff where they could come back to school.
Yep.
They're not losing that part, which I think is absolutely, it's got to be completely incredible feeling. It's got to be a completely incredible feeling for talented players to pick a program fully knowing the process will lead to a certain payday as a college student. Oh yeah. And again, I'm going to continue to say you're worth whatever the hell somebody's willing to pay you. The idea that we should find a way, it's completely un-American to tell somebody that they can't make as much money as they want, as somebody's willing to pay them. And to think that they're just, oh yeah, okay, now we don't get to do that more. Okay, I get it. No problem.
It's a confusing time.
Yeah, kids are never going to be okay with that shit. That's like, you guys know that I've given Kim Hurst piles of shit. He doesn't even come back in here anymore because I don't want to hear his shit anymore. He's totally against paying athletes, and I'm like, I don't want to hear that fucking shit from you anymore.
Wait, you're telling me Kim this whole time has been a dude?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, man. Yeah. It is what it is. Dude, we've been going for an hour and 35 minutes.
I've been coming on this show for 2 years, and I did not know Kim was a dude until right now.
Yeah, you did. I've told you before, but you forget things.
Evidently.
I wasn't going to bring that one up. All right. What are you working on right now? What do you got going on right now?
Just working on some of the spring stuff. Obviously, recruiting is a big factor in everything right now. I am going to discuss basically some of this in my next episode in regards to narrowing down what sports you're going to spend the money on, because like we just won a national title in golf, yet golf is getting nothing. Now they do have a fancy golf course, and there's going to be some.
I was going to say they got it pretty laced in Stillwater.
They're going to get stuff, but to be excluded from that kind of doesn't make sense. Our track and field program, they're top 15 for the first time ever in both men's and women's, and now they're getting excluded. So I feel like that's probably going to be detrimental to Dave Smith. So that's basically what I was going to talk about. Was NAL's great. I don't agree with the arbitration and the way that things are going down, and I don't always necessarily agree with some of these sports that are getting left behind. And it's going to be up to every university. And then that's not even factoring in Title IX. Like as it sits, Oklahoma State's going to pay for 4 dude sports, three women's sports. Is that going to be a problem? I don't know. Should there be an argument made? Possibly. But it's college athletics is a mess.
It is a mess. It is a mess, but understand that it's not going anywhere, because if it did, then that's a lot of money out the window that they're just not going to hand over. You know what I mean? They don't even want to hand it over to the athletes. So you think they're just going to hand it back to the networks? I think not. I think not. Boganowski, anything else you want to add to this? We've been going for a while. I got to get to work.
Oh man, I just remember I started off with that I need a scheduler. Totally boloed what was just happening. Didn't have basketball. Basketball's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. He called me after his little weights and like, Dad, we don't have basketball. I'm like, damn it.
So you got to go pick up the boy.
I had to go pick him up.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a fail. Starting off today with a fail.
It
I'm gonna
happens.
go make up for it doing cook a good lunch.
There you go. Well, you tell Cam we said hello, and well, both the kids and Mama too. And I will talk to you gentlemen shortly. I'm gonna go out playing these commercials because I didn't take a damn commercial break during this thing, and I probably should have. But make sure you guys get over there, check out Okie Like Cody. They do a lot of stuff. I like the Locked On with the crew of people
show?
from the squad shows are really cool. I've actually gotten to where I like those.
Well, and you know what?
You make the Big 12 one because you're busting balls all day long. It's hilarious.
Well, that's it. Like they were supposed to only be for football season. Like every conference was supposed to have a football squad show. I think us and the SEC were the only that they kept after football. It's because we don't talk about sports half the time. We just shoot the shit, make fun of things.
Yeah, did the Big 12 or did the Big 10 ever do one or the ACC? I never saw either one of them.
Okay. They did. They had them during football seasons, but I don't know if it was numbers or viewership or whatever. They just didn't pick back up. But Locked On SEC and Big 12, I guess we're putting up numbers, so we just keep going and we keep shooting the breeze, and it is fun.
We care about the sport in these two conferences is why. It just means more. It just means more to the both of these conferences, I would say. Yeah, it kind of is what it is.
I enjoy it, man. They let me say some crazy shit, so it works.
Please clarify, not Kimberly Kim. Thank you. Okay. I didn't know okay. Appreciate that. We will clarify that. Make sure you guys call her Kim from now on. Oh,
wait, I'm so confused.
No. We were talking about, and I did clarify a minute ago. I know what you're saying now, Kimberly K. Kim Hurst is the guy we're talking about.
Okay.
I was talking about Kim Hurst. He doesn't come in the show anymore because he gets pissed that I'm like, shut the fuck up. I don't want to hear about you not wanting to pay kids anymore. I don't want to hear it. So he got mad. We've had a couple of, yelling at each other kind of stuff. He just keeps on and keeps on. So I think I pissed him off to the end. Wasn't talking about Kimberly K. Kimberly K. Yeah, I don't know that we need to clarify that much because everybody calls you Kimberly K. Anyway, but we're there.
The real right. Kim.
Yeah.
There we go.
Got it. All right, man. Tell everybody how to find you though, and we'll get out of here.
Make sure you go check out Boganowski's stuff. That'll help me. That'll help me quite a bit.
Will it? Cool.
I don't know how
hey, you like that? You like that?
Explain that. Explain how that works.
It was supposed to be
fun Twitter follow.
You're fun so Twitter random that you were clueless on a response. So I feel like I accomplished it.
And it worked. Well done. So we'll just do this instead, since he's playing around.
People that are negative and voicing their opinion are the same ones that can't pay their own bills.
Just remember that.
That's right. I'm here to represent the poors, and I like it.
Yeah.
Poors.
It is what it is. All right, man. I appreciate everybody coming in. You know what? I will bring that back up real quick before we go. What the fuck that there was a terrorist that was planning to blow up the palace. Thankfully, they caught the kid. A homegrown terrorist. Yes.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, it was on the news in Oklahoma City last night. Wild shit.
That
go find it. In fact, I will go and let me find that. I'll go to the history deal here, and I will send the link. I will give you guys the link that's in there.
Well, why don't you just give us a brief synopsis?
Okay, so there's a kid, a 20-year-old kid that still lived at home. He was talking to FBI agents who were posing as
Hell yeah.
Right?
Really?
They were posing as this. So
nice.
Then he was plotting to blow up the palace. That was one of his plots.
What's the palace?
Yeah, what are we talking about?
You know what the palace is?
Nah.
The palace on the prairie.
Nah.
Oh.
Gaylord Memorial Stadium at Oklahoma.
I'm thinking like the governor's palace, like some shit. I thought he was like
I'm not lying. Go check the link. It's right there. I'll send it to you, Cody, into your text messages even.
All right.
Go check it out. You guys go look at it. It's wild stuff. But thankfully, it looks like he's going to do about 50 years in prison for it.
Dude, that kid never stood a chance. What a dummy.
Yeah, he was fucked. Yeah, he was fucked all the way. But it's what tells you. But here's the thing. If you ever find anybody that's smart enough to, to not go talk to an FBI agent, it's a problem. These are what, this is what turns into school shootings and shit.
So a wannabe terrorist was going to blow up something in Norman.
Yeah.
Got to be a Texas fan.
No. He got the idea for the palace because of he went to a game with his grandparents.
Make mental hospitals great again, Jason.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what needs to happen here, buddy.
Make ass whoopings great again.
No shit.
Oh, yeah. That's probably even more in line.
Yeah, make sure you guys go watch it. It's wild stuff. It really is. I mean, this is actually something that happened that, that thankfully for the FBI, they did something right on this one. So
they did that to a kid up in Topeka. He was going to ride a U-Haul truck up on the Fort Riley and try to do some damage. Never stood a chance.
Have fun with that. Yeah. Running up on Fort Riley. That's smart. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, pretty funny.
Ain't fake stupid.
Yeah.
Stupid.
I just don't understand. We're trying to get off here. I'm trying to get off the show here. I know you're trying to go, Jason. So you shouldn't have brought that up, bro. I'll go in on that shit.
No. Listen, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I don't know how many people. I figured most everybody that lives in that area.
I didn't even heard about that. I didn't even heard. I've been too busy watching.
I hadn't heard about it either. I got to
Israel bombed the shit out of Iran.
Yeah, that's been going crazy. Yeah. It's a wild world we live in right now, folks. California is trying to. They're fighting. I've been seeing some shitty videos. It's wild, man. It's this world that we live in right now. Man, they just try to love on each other, okay? Just try to love on each other. A little bit. Just a little bit. Oh, thank you, Coach Ricks, for the super chat. Appreciate that. 1-800-whoop that ass. Yeah, that's what you got to do to them kids. Beat their kids.
Flip that.
I'm just kidding, man. All right, man. I gotta get. That's probably gonna get me fucking burned on this channel for that shit. Saying beat your kids. Please beat your kids.
Texas fans are terrorists.
Bernie Mac had a whole bit about it, bro. It was probably one of his more popular lines.
They say fuck them kids now all the time. They got parents that do
Bernie Mac. He's like,
TikTok videos as F them kids all the time. You know what I mean? It's funny shit.
Love it.
Bernie Mac is funny. He's like, if they're like from 2 to 4, you can hit them in the throat or some shit like that. He said something that was hilarious.
Thank you for the super chat, Charles. I appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome.
Make sure y'all support Boganowski by coming to Locked On Oklahoma State show.
Yeah, there it is. I got that much influence out there, people.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm an influencer now.
An influencer. Hey, you never know. You just never know. We could blow up at any time, man. We might have just went viral.
Hey, if I can influence you to do anything, it's okay to spank your kids.
There you go. Beat your kids.
No, spank on the butt.
Oh yeah.
I'm out.
Hide your wife.
Are you tired of your game day gear looking like it's stuck in the off season? Well, step up your fandom with Hall of Fame College Football's official Fanatics partner store. Whether you're a diehard Oklahoma Sooners fan like myself, bleeding Crimson and Cream, or you rep another one of the SEC's heavy hitters, Fanatics has you covered. Shop thousands of officially licensed hats, jerseys, sideline polos, and exclusive championship merch from the entire Power 4 and Group of 6 too. All shipped directly to your doorstep and fast. Want to gear up like your favorite coaches and players? Are you looking for that perfect tailgate tee or a statement piece for your man cave? Fanatics is your one-stop shop for authentic college football gear from everybody that plays the game. So do yourself and your team a favor. Click our link in the description or simply log on to hofmedia.us/fanatics. That's hofmedia.us/fanatics. And you can shop everything that you want for the best prices of the day right on our